Hello, my PBC family and friends. Pastor Brian here with another quick bite, living the Word. Today, my thought comes from the Old Testament, and it displays the love of God. And I think it's important for us to remember how much God loves us during this time. But it comes on the heels of something pretty interesting to me. And then it says that God is ready to pardon, God loves, so on and so forth. So if you'll turn with me in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 17 with me. Actually, we're going to pick up verse 16, if you would, and read down through verse 17 today. And what's interesting about this is in Nehemiah, so many great things going on. But anyway, long story short, is Nehemiah comes and he comes before the Lord in essence, and this is what they say. This is words that they have going on in an exchange about the Lord and who He is and how gracious and kind and loving He is. So this is what we come to in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 16 and 17. I just want to read this to us to begin with. It says, "And they and our fathers dealt proudly and hardened their necks and hearkened not unto thy commandments, and refused to obey, neither were mindful of thy wonders that thou didst among them, but hardened their necks, and in their rebellion appointed a captain return to their bondage. But thou art a God, ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and forsookest them not." Listen to those promises, those words. That was such a beautiful statement. The generations had hardened their necks and hardened their hearts towards God and had been in rebellion to Him. They had not listened to His commandments and they refused to obey. But I find this part really interesting. Neither were they mindful of the wonders of what He had done. Sometimes I think when in our own lives what we have a tendency to do is we forget what God has already done for us. We forget the beauty of everything He's already done for us. I mean, the cross itself is enough. I mean, as Paul says, that His grace is sufficient for us. That's all we ever actually needed was the grace of God. But the point of the matter is even beyond that. I was thinking about this. I mean, many of us in our nation thankfully have a home, that we live in. We have a roof over our head. We have food in on our tummies or in our bellies, however you want to put it. We're taken care of. The wondrous things God has done. Many of us have friends and family. We have children. We have all sorts of beautiful things. So many wondrous things God has already done for us. But yet, how many times we turn away from those things to the weak and beggarly elements of this world? How many times we turn away from those things that really matter the most and go back to the pig slop of the prodigal son, if I can put it to you that way? I mean, how many times in our walk with Christ are we going to do this before we recognize that He is on our side? And that He is so wonderful. And if we would just stay faithful and walk with Him as He is faithful to us, then He would just continue to pour out and pour out and pour out His blessings upon us. I mean, the blessings most of all obviously being the promised return and or our return to Him, whatever may come first. I mean, just think about that. That's just an awesome thought in itself. But I wanted to share with you this morning because I wanted you to remember to think about the wondrous works which God has done already in your life. I mean, sometimes we look at our life and go, oh, I had a tough life. I had a rough life. I had a hard life. And you know what? To a certain extent, you have. Some of us have had harder lives than others. But remember, everybody has their own hard. Everybody has their own difficult they have to deal with. Your difficult doesn't make you somehow magical compared to everybody else. But Jesus Christ, God of all creation, loved you enough to come and take care of those difficulties. Doesn't mean you're not going to have struggles, but He's saying, here's the deal. I love you, and I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. And then He goes on in that same passage, in verse 17, it says, they forgot to pay attention to your wondrous works. And He says this, "But thou art a God ready to pardon." Do you guys realize that God stands ready to pardon? God stands ready to forgive all the time. As a matter of fact, here's the deal. When we studied forgiveness, and we looked at forgiveness, we understand that God has purpose in His heart to forgive even before the offense has happened. That's an amazing thought. God has forgiven that. He stands ready to pardon. Gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness. That's where we get that idea of love. That kindness is another Hebrew word for the idea of love there. But the point of the matter is He's so loving toward you. And He's of great love. God is love, 1 John tells us. So why are we so scared all the time about, is God in control? Is God got this? And what is God doing? God loves us. And I know even as a parent, I know I only had one child. And some of you act like, well, maybe they didn't really know what it was like to have children because they only had one. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. My heart breaks just as much when my child is hurt, when my child is suffering, My son is 19 years old now, and sometimes he comes home and has had a rough day, and I'm just like, I just want to pick him up, not that I can, but and put him in and hold him in my arms and hug him and just love on him and tell him how much I care for him. And do you think the God of all creation doesn't feel the same about you? He right now is reaching out saying, I love you. Come into me. I'm sorry you had a rough day. I'm sorry you're having a tough time, but just remember, I love you. Let me hold on to you. And then he says this, in his great love and that great kindness, and forsookest them not. See, even when God should have abandoned us, even when God has the right to abandon us, he doesn't. Isn't that an amazing promise? He doesn't quit. He doesn't give up. I hope this encourages you today. I know it encouraged me to think about this. I love you. We love you. God loves you. And God's got this.